Hello, my name is Anthony Sanchez, and today we're going to be explaining Africa. Africa is near Asia and below Europe. The population contains mostly of indigenous native Africans. Africa is known for its early contributions in history, such as early mathematics and art that would inspire future artists.
My name is Anthony Villasola, and we're going to start out with some historical facts of Africa. Number one, the introduction of Islam to Africa. So these Muslim traders, they were coming into Africa and spreading their religion to the African indigenous people.
I beat the drummer, I roll up no more drummer. Wah, she give me what.
So unlike that video you just saw, I'm going to give a little bit more in-depth view on Islam in Africa. Islam can be traced back to the 7th century CE in Africa. It was spread from Southeast Asia from traders and preachers. Muhammad instructed disciples who were fleeing from religious persecution to cross the Red Sea to Axum, a city in Africa. They would be later accepted by the various kings of Africa who would later convert to Islam, ultimately spreading Islam to the subjects of their rule.
Historical event number 2, Scramble of Africa. The Scramble of Africa was basically where imperialism would rise and European countries would come in and invade Africa and take their land for economic gains of their own.
Hey, I'm European, you're not, that's my stuff now.
No, sir, it's my stuff.
Give me the...
Now on to the Scramble of Africa. The Scramble of Africa was the colonization of European powers of Africa for either political or economic gains. This was very large on a large scale, as at the height of the Scramble of Africa, nearly 90% of Africa was under control of another foreign power. Events such as the Berlin Conference unfairly divided Africa for the Europeans without representation from Africa. As you can see in the picture to the right, all the colored sections represent a separate district of Africa being divided.
Historical event number 3, the slave trade. The slave trade was the process of sending slaves from Africa to the new colonized Americas, and the demand for slaves was really high because plantations in America was set, and so now they needed forced labor, and they got that labor from Africa.
Yo, how much for that slave? Hey man, it's $50.
All right, bet.
All right, thanks. Here's your change.
Now on to the slave trade. The slave trade was the transportation and selling of slaves from Central and West Africa to plantation owners in the Americas. Plantations were entirely dependent on this forced labor, making the need for slaves very high during the 16th through 19th century. These slaves would be used for working in plantations and growing cash crops, which would be sent back into Europe. This was also referred to as the triangular trade because slaves were being sent to the Americas, the raw material would be sent to Europe that they would produce, and the demand would rise, increasing the need for slaves in America.
Audio Jungle.
Current event number 1. Ebola would be an outbreak that dated originally in 1973, which would kill many people in Africa, including thousands of more outside of Africa. Damn, bro. Bruh, he's dead. Sorry, I'm feeling kind of sick right now.
Starting in 1973, Ebola would prove to be one of the deadliest diseases in modern history. In 2014, the largest Ebola outbreak occurred, killing thousands of Africans. The scare did not only stay in Africa due to increased methods of transportation, there was incidents of Ebola-related deaths all around the world. On the right, in the top picture, you could see the Ebola strain under a microscope, and below that, you could see the Ebola outbreaks in the United States where the cases were reported. As you can see, there was multiple of them in the United States, and countries located closer to Africa would see an increased amount of incidents happening, even though that's not where they originated. They originated in West African countries such as Sierra Leone and New Guinea. Sorry to interrupt, but dang, that last segment was very depressing. Now let's go to happier things. Africa is a very beautiful country with many different cultures, very unique to the rest of the world. Not everywhere in Africa is the same, actually, as each country has had its own history and its own unique culture that has risen. Now, let's go back to the segments of current events.
Current event number 2, the poaching of animals. So recently, the price of animal stuff such as ivory and skin from animals such as lions and tigers has gone up from on the black market. And so what people are doing is that they're illegally poaching these animals and going onto reservations and killing those animals for their precious items that they offer.
As you can see, the bed is over there. We're gonna take the shot now.
Now on to another serious problem in Africa, illegal poaching. Poaching is the hunting and killing of wild animals illegally. This usually leads to endangering the species or entirely making the species extinct. This market is estimated to be a $70 through $200 billion industry in the world. Conservation efforts have made it easier to support and help and save the animals from an early death. Supporting these conservation efforts and spreading awareness of this problem will help save thousands of animals from the problems of illegal poaching.
Current event number 3. With the increasing population of the Africans and with the increasing need of farming and agricultural needs for an increasing amount of people, the cutting down of trees is needed, which is causing the deforestation of the Congo rainforest.
A problem in Africa which has a global impact is deforestation. Deforestation is the act of cutting down rainforests for the needs of humans, usually leaving the land unsustainable for natural life to live there. In Africa, this is a large problem because there is little to no government regulations limiting deforestation, meaning that companies can get rid of rainforests as much as they want without government regulations. Many proposed ideas have been introduced, but only time will tell if they are enough to make sustainable rainforests, as it takes a long time for these rainforests to regrow.